gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I'm your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is Football and Nonsense. It is Wednesday, meaning that it is, of course, Fantasy Football Wednesday. Brandon Raper is going to be joining me on the show here in just a few minutes. And then Eric Fischer will come on. We are going to have a moment of silence and in memoriam for the 2017 Green Bay Packers, as they are now Aaron Rodgers-less. So, good talk. We already talked earlier. It was pre-recorded. Good talk with Eric. He's optimistic, and why not? Because this is the Green Bay Packers, and Packer fans are always optimistic. They can overcome any adversity. And I commend them for that. I really do. I applaud that thinking. It's funny. There's a moment in the interview, his spot that he's on, where we talk about fan bases and different fan bases' behaviors in certain situations, as well as their expectations and standards, so you won't want to miss that. But, of course, this is the top of the show, and this show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is the world leader in online betting and gambling, so take your betting needs and your gambling action to MyBookie.ag. I trust them. Why shouldn't you? If you're wanting to, if you're watching the games, it's time to start making some money. MyBookie is the industry leader for websites that hook you up, and they hook you up for your betting needs. They have great odds, fast payouts, and decades of experience. You can bet with confidence. They are built on the 3 R's: reputation, reliability, and really fast payouts. And they've built that reputation with that reliability and, of course, those really fast payouts. So why go anywhere else? Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. That's why I urge you, once again, like I do here every week, to go and check out MyBookie. Today, I trust them. Why shouldn't you? If you and your team have both been sitting on the sidelines, seemingly, then it's time to go and take advantage. So go place a bet for or against your team. If your team sucks, it's a win-win-win for you, because you can bet on them, and if they win, great, you win too. You can bet against them. If they win, great, even though you lost, so bet wisely. If they lose, you win. And if they cover the spread and they still lose, you still win. There's just so many ways to win with MyBookie.ag. This is the last time that they are going to offer you the bonus that has been available, where they are offering 100% bonus. So you can kiss it goodbye after this. You don't want to miss out. So they are matching your deposit with up to 100% if you use the promo code TheFanShow to activate that offer when you sign up at MyBookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. And that will bring us to the headlines of today. And the headlines are that injuries are everywhere. Doesn't matter what league you play in. It was NBA tip-off last night. And Gordon Hayward, oh my goodness, brutal. Absolutely brutal. I mean, I'm a guy, I fish, I hunt, and not nearly as much as I'd like to, and not nearly as much as I used to. But you get used to certain things, but even still, there's certain things that you never get used to. I feel like some people have watched so many CSIs or crime shows where they show just, brutal murders and whatever, that if it were to happen in real life, that you'd be like almost numb to it. At the same time, seeing it for real might send you into a state of shock. So when it comes to hunting and fishing, you catch the fish, you gut the fish, you get nasties all over your hands, you wash your hands, you cook the fish, everything's happy. When it comes to hunting, it's that same thing on a much larger scale. If you're talking deer, elk, moose, you shoot the deer, you gut the deer, you hang it up, you skin it, all that. I apologize if my vague description is almost too much for you, but you get the idea. You go and you wash your hands. And I remember I had friends that could not hold it together when it came time to field dressing, as they call it, for a deer. And it was always funny to me because for me, I was fine because it was just part of the process. Like, with the good comes the bad, and your reward for shooting a deer is that, now you have all this meat you can make into sausage and venison steaks, and it's so good, but you had to do the hard part in order to get there. It's like with anything, you want your car to run well, you have to get your hands dirty to change the oil or have somebody else do it for you. So when my friends couldn't handle the field dressing of a deer, it was just so funny to me. But there's times where I've donated blood and I've passed out because the seeing blood leave my body for whatever reason freaked me out. And then there was the time that I broke my pinky playing football, and it wasn't just like a subtle break. Like this thing, there was a video that The Rock posted a few years back where he broke his finger and it was turned away that no finger should ever turn. And I almost lost it watching that. So when it happened to me, I got lightheaded and I had to look away because my finger was going a direction that finger doesn't go that direction. And went to the hospital, had it reset, had a few pins placed in it. But it was kind of an very humble moment for me, a moment of humility, because here I could go out and I could shoot a 300-pound deer and field dress it and not blink an eye. But the second that my pinky is crooked and turned a way that it shouldn't be, I'm queasy. And that was the feeling with that Gordon Hayward broken leg last night. Oh my goodness. It was so brutal. And it wasn't even anything more than how he came down from the hoop. And of course, I'm watching SmackDown Live, right, where you almost bank on seeing some amount of blood from the forehead or whatever, and they've gotten a lot better about it now that they're TV PG. But you see the clips start to pour in on Twitter, and you're just like, I'm seeing reactions. I don't know if I want to see the video. Okay, you've piqued my interest. Now I have to see the video. And I watch it and I see and I'm like, ugh. Like it was so bad. So prayers to him, speedy recovery. Oh, that shouldn't happen, but I'm not even going to get into detail because I'm thinking about it in the images and the videos that I saw last night. I didn't even have to go looking for them. They were just there. But hooey. In football news though, there was that league meeting that we mentioned yesterday, and the fact that Jerry Jones wasn't there, but yet Jed York was. Eric Reed was there, but yet Colin Kaepernick wasn't. And so they had their meeting. I've been seeing emails in my inbox all day from NFL communications talking about what was discussed there, and it seems like a lot wasn't really discussed. In fact, so much wasn't discussed that Donald Trump has tweeted at the NFL, "Too much talking, not enough action. Stand for the anthem." One of his shortest tweets ever, and it's directed right at the NFL. I found it very, very funny in that regard. But let's go ahead and see if there's any more news to be had from this, because it's been between Ezekiel Elliott and his suspension, and does he get to play, does he not? It seems like it's day-to-day, week-to-week now. It's gotten ridiculous, and I don't know what the NFL and the owners and anything hope comes out of this, but let's see if I can go ahead and find one of the most recent emails that I got from. Okay, so Roger Goodell press conference at NFL fall meeting in New York. Roger Goodell, before I get to questions, I'm pleased to announce that the Dallas, that's another headline for today. Dallas will be the spot. They will host the 2018 NFL Draft, so clearly they are going forward with this, moving it around from city to city. Dallas, perfect spot. It's where your Cowboys are, AT&T Stadium, Jerry World. Why not give the man who's got plenty of money even more of it? Neither here nor there. So Goodell, Dallas will host the 2018 NFL Draft. And then let's see here. We had a very productive set of meetings here in New York over the last couple of days. This is Roger Goodell speaking to one of the reporters there. This is a transcript of that meeting. We had reports from various committees, including the competition committee. We are very excited about the season that we have going on right now. We talked about the 6 weeks that we have played, the date, and the margin of victory. We talked about the penalties per game, game presentation, and changes that we have made, and also talked about officiating. There was a lot of very positive feedback on the game. We also spent a great deal of time talking about our partnerships. We extended and expanded our partnership with Ticketmaster, which we think will be very fan-friendly and give our fans a better opportunity to buy tickets on a secure basis and on a greater platform. We had a report on our health and safety initiatives and impact that they have on our game. Lastly, we had a special visitor today, the commissioner of the NYPD, Jimmy O'Neill, as the chief of police, and his chief of police, Terry Monahan, I believe, in conversation with them for several. I have been in conversation with them for several months, so this has been quite a while in the making. We are trying to understand how we can continue to expand the relationship between our clubs, our players, our communities, and the NFL. He was very helpful in giving us insight into what their initiatives are with the NYPD and the initiatives that are going on in other parts of the country. I saw those initiatives firsthand in Miami last week and Philadelphia recently. The relationship between the players, our communities, and law enforcement is very important to us. Yesterday, I made a brief comment, but I'm sure there will be more questions about the meeting and the players and owners. We also spent a great deal of time with our owners alone today discussing our efforts with our players. There are a great deal of support for the efforts that our players have identified. They not only support and recognize that these are important issues for our communities, they are American issues and certain things that we want as clubs and as the league that we want to support and be part of and help lead with our players. I think those are the key issues. I will tell you, though, another issue we spent a great deal of time talking about this morning was how much we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. That is an important part of our policy. It's also an important part of our game that we will take great pride in. It is also important for us to honor the flag and our country. Our fans expect us to do that. That is something that we continue to focus on this morning. We are really talking about the opportunity that exists with our players to try and go and really make a difference in our communities in a positive way. Now, that was just the first exchange between the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and one of the reporters, but that's what he does. He's like the sultan of commissioner spin when it comes to talking to the press. I've never seen anyone say so much and yet say so little when being in front of 25 microphones. But there he is. I mean, did you take anything from that? Because I'm reading it and I'm getting lost almost in every paragraph thinking, okay, what's the point that he's getting to with all of this? And the point is that I didn't see a point in there. They're working. Okay, well, they've been working this whole time on bridging this gap, on joining communities and blah, blah, blah. I assumed they were doing that this entire time. But nonetheless, here we are after 7 weeks of NFL and protesting and presidents and whatever, and I don't feel like we've made any progress. I feel like there was this meeting and nothing valuable came of it. But this is from a fan's perspective, reading a transcript that was released earlier today by the NFL commissioner, and I'm trying to decipher it, and I can't. So your thoughts, of course, you can always tweet me at FanShowOfficial. Hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial. And then, of course, email me, richard@thefanshow.com. But I want to take a quick moment to give a shout-out to my man, Fan Show superfan, Ron Latson. He gave me a call earlier today to talk about the state of the Indoor Football League and a few things, rumblings, rumors that we've heard as of late. And before I bring Brandon on to talk fantasy, him and I, we see things from a similar point of view. We're both fans in all reality, and I just happen to be one with a show, and he loves this show, and that's what my goal was when I set out to do this. I wanted fans to like the Fan Show. I wanted to feel like I was someone that they could come to, have a discussion with. Not that I want to talk about sports or football all day, since I make a point to run a website and host a show, and I already talk about it so much, but have a constructive conversation, have a meaningful conversation, and I wanted fans especially to feel welcome on the show. It is the Fan Show. This is for you, the fans, and he's been a great one. But what we talked about was the IFL schedule is getting closer and closer to being released, and of course that means a lot to me because I do plan on doing a Fan Show Tour 2018, IFL, CIF, and yes, AFL. There are people that I know that will be involved with all three of those, and so that sort of opens the door of opportunities and possibilities for myself. Last year, I feel like the tour was a great success, so much that I took away from that experience and things that happened that I would do differently this year, and I want to try this year, and that is covering 3 leagues instead of 1. So we talked, and one thing that we were just really upset about and overall disappointed with is how much negativity we see from the people that call themselves, quote-unquote, fans in the forums online. And so much so that it's rubbing off on people that would otherwise be very excited about the upcoming season. Because the difference between a lot of the fans in a league like the IFL and the Spokane fans is that there's not a lot of the Spokane fans that I see get very vocal or involved in these forums. And I don't know if that's their choice or they don't know about it, haven't been invited to it, whatever. And I know that Spokane doesn't have a team anymore, so it kind of seems like a moot point. But their fans were always very fun, very active. They were very optimistic, and they enjoyed everything. And then you get to this forum where you have fans from like all the other teams, and there's these top 5 guys that are just constantly negative and ripping everything down, and it drives us nuts because if you take away the negativity, and if you look past the BS that is egotistical owners and teams folding and starting, you can have a good time. You really can, because it's community-friendly football in your area where there's not a whole lot of stuff going on. In Spokane, this was the only form of football that we had, and now we lost it. I don't think that we took it for granted. I just think that things were poorly run from a front office standpoint, but that's my own personal opinion. We'll talk about that later if you want. But to have so much negativity, I'm now seeing people that would otherwise be excited, they're not. They're not renewing season tickets or they're whatever. And it's like, if you talk negative so much, you are going to rub off on other people. And even if it's some big joke, you need to stop joking because it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. If you have so much free time in your day, spend it doing something else other than talking so negatively about something that, in all honesty, a lot of people want to try and enjoy, but they can't because these people are constantly ripping down this or that or this news or that rumor, and it's just so stupid. It is the biggest load of bullshit that happens in this league that I can comprehend. And that's part of the reason why I stay quiet, because there's so many things I want to say, but I don't, because it's really not worth my breath, and I would rather focus my energy and efforts on getting people excited and being optimistic for the upcoming IFL season, because these are people that I have a genuine relationship with, that I consider a second family, that I look forward to seeing when February rolls around. While everybody else is bitching and moaning that there's no football, there is football going on. It's just on a smaller scale, and these guys are just as competitive because they're trying to get to that next level, and I fully support that. So to all of you in that forum that want to constantly spend your days, your hours being negative and tearing down this or that, just shut up. I mean, really, just shut up. I'm about to just up and leave the forum, but before I do, I want people to know that your negativity is not falling on deaf ears, and it's starting to have an effect on people that would otherwise be very optimistic, very positive, and that I would be excited to look forward to see. But you are souring the experience for so many that it frustrates me to the point where I'm just telling you right now, shut up. All right? And that's the last thing I'm going to say before I bring Brandon on, so we will be right back after this quick message with Mr. Brandon as we talk fantasy football. We're at the midway point. Are you done, or are you still in it? We're going to help you save your season after this. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The F.A.N. Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to save your fantasy football season if it is still salvageable. We are at, I think, literally the midway point of a lot of fantasy seasons out there, because as we get closer to the midway point of the regular season, we have pretty much hit or are about to hit the midway point on our fantasy season, depending, of course, on how your playoff structure is. But if it's standard like most, yeah, it's either do or die time for a lot of you. So, Brandon, we had your waiver wire targets article come out again yesterday after a brief absence. Hope your move to Florida went well. But, let's talk some fantasy. Let's save some seasons here.
Yeah, let's try.
So we had your article. I read it. I agreed with a lot of it. Of course, the dead horse of the season has been the tight end position. But now we've lost Aaron Rodgers, which I'm not going to say that a quarterback necessarily makes or breaks your season, because there are some people that will have a zero quarterback approach and they will stream a quarterback if they have the means to. But if you get your hands on Aaron Rodgers, he can make or break your game, because he can score the amount of points of like 3 players on your team, especially if you're having just an off week with 3 of your players. So that impact on the world of fantasy in your eyes.
So this actually will relate quite personally to my team, because I have both Ty Montgomery and Jordy Nelson on my team.
Ooh.
And it will drastically affect everybody's team who owns anybody that is a Packer. So Martellus Bennett, I don't think, is somebody that you can even own anymore. Ty Montgomery is splitting times with Aaron Jones. We'll see how that plays out this week. I don't want to take last week as a measuring tape quite yet, because he was still injured. And I think the biggest person to be affected is Jordy Nelson. Nelson just has a good chemistry with Rodgers, and that's not going to be there. So I think his numbers take a drastic hit. He's only been averaging 58 yards receiving, I believe, a game, but he's sticking with points due to touchdowns. So I see those touchdowns going away, and I think Aaron Jones or Ty Mont picks those up. I'm not sold on Hundley not being a decent quarterback, so I think there's value with somebody, but I think time will tell with that one. It's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the receiver standpoint. One note that I wanted to say on that, though, is that, it seems like we see different chemistries out of the gate with a lot of these quarterback issues that we see. Of course, when Brock Osweiler stepped in for Peyton Manning a few years back, he had great rapport with receivers that Manning didn't, and that's because some of these receivers spent more time with the second team than they did the first team, and that's where, of course, your backup is spending a majority of his team. Now, we've also seen, though, where your star receiver is your star receiver, and they play great no matter what. Now, I don't see the 45-yard bombs to Nelson and Devontae Adams and guys like that from Hundley, but I do think that he could still go after Jordy a lot, because that is your go-to guy. I wonder, though, what your take on a guy like Martellus Bennett is, because here's a guy at the tight end position which is already shaky enough that I've held on to all season, because through the first 4 weeks he was continually trending upward as he built rapport with Aaron. But now that McCarthy is probably going to have a game plan that deals with a shorter field, as far as, not looking for those long throws, utilizing the run game, and then picking apart the defense over the middle, do you think Bennett's value goes up at all?
No, I think it goes down quite considerably. But I think this will be the week to tell exactly where that trends. The only reason that I would even hold on to him for this week, and I wouldn't start him, but I would hold on to him, is those second-string quarterbacks and dink and dunkers, I guess you could say. A lot of them will have one read and throw, and a lot of the times that will be to a tight end. If you get into the red zone at all, it's either going to be a run or play action toss to a tight end, most likely. You're not going to see those back shoulder throws to Nelson like Rodgers was throwing. So I believe that after this week, his stock will drastically fall. But this week is going to be the week to tell that. There is a chance that he at least maintains what he's been doing.
Now, people that picked up Jones because Montgomery hurt his ribs, obviously Montgomery came back and had a decent game in Rodgers' absence, but are they both worth holding on to because we could see kind of a tandem of running backs behind Hundley, or is it best to go with the guy that has been the primary running back the whole time, and that is, of course, Ty Montgomery?
I think it's worth it to hold on to them both, at least for the next week. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but so Ty Mont broke multiple ribs. That doesn't just heal over 1 week. I can't believe he even played at all last week, let alone this week. But I do believe it will end up being a Freeman-Coleman type situation. Montgomery wasn't averaging very well. It was something like 2.8 yards a carry, 3.2 yards a carry, something like that. So it wasn't anything spectacular, but he is a wide receiver. So he's going to have some value in the passing game, at the very least, in third down plays, which I think they'll probably see a lot of with that offense now.
Yeah, I'd really like to see more from Jones. I think that he is a solid running back, and of course I picked him up, and I was fortunate to have great performances out of him. But okay, so Aaron Rodgers is not just losing a quarterback; he's losing potentially two wide receivers in Randall Cobb and or Devontae Adams, and then of course Jordy Nelson, and then Martellus Bennett. Not that there was really any value to be had there to begin with, and now loses even more with Hundley at quarterback. So you have to kind of wait and see who he develops rapport with. But your fantasy season is happening now. You don't really have time to wait. So with that, who are you targeting on the waiver wire to try to, I guess, almost fill that void of losing points from Jordy Nelson? Are you up and dropping a guy like that? Are you looking to maybe trade him? Like, what's your approach to kind of filling those spots, like ushering one out and entering a new?
If you can find somebody that will buy somebody like Adams or Cobb, I would feel comfortable trading them. I don't know exactly what you would get, but I think there's a lot of players who have not been producing as they should be. Most of them are producing games via yardage, but not touchdowns. And those are the type of players that you want to trade for. They will statistically catch up. The other ones, as far as waiver wire goes, there's not a whole lot out there unless you're just trying to pick up somebody who's starting due to injury. So if Emmanuel Sanders sits out this week, Benny Fowler is definitely somebody that I'd be interested in. I'm always a fan of watching the film and seeing how players adjust to the ball, see how they run their routes, and Fowler is definitely somebody that I think has a lot of potential in the wide receiver area. As far as that, I think on the same line, Kenny Stills is somebody that has some value going ahead with Parker being hurt. The offense is going to throw a lot more due to Pouncey being hurt and Ajayi not being able to find holes as well due to that. And if you want to go even deeper, I would say Roger Lewis of the Giants is going to be a second-string wide receiver now, and he'll see some targets because I really don't trust any of their running backs to produce. And I cannot believe that Darkwa did anything this week. The NFL makes no sense. Nothing makes any sense. So those are three players that I'd be interested in looking at least as a flyer for this week. If you have any of the Packers, I feel comfortable starting Nelson this week. Think of it as I don't even know. Who can we compare this to? So let's compare this to DeAndre Hopkins. Last year, he saw like 180 targets or something with Brock Osweiler as a quarterback. If Brock Lobster is throwing to you that often, you're going to at least produce a percentage of the time. So I think Nelson will at least see his shares.
Yeah, and that could be good for people looking to possibly cash in on a trade with Nelson. If he produces decent this week, I would say start fishing around to see if people want to take you up on that, because obviously the best case scenario is that somebody could take a gamble on, say, yeah, I'll trade you for Jordy, because if Rodgers is back before the end of the season, and if I happen to make the playoffs and or championship, then it'll be a perfect fit for that scenario. But that is, of course, a huge gamble at this point, where if you lose a guy like David Johnson first week of the year, then you know that he will probably be back before the end of the season. That's a bit more of a gamble that you can go on, because now you have a more realistic timeline to come back for not only the end of your season, but obviously your playoff run. So it's going to be tricky. You're going to have to obviously find the right buyer. You're going to have to find the right sort of scenario. But I would hang on, like Brandon said, to Jordy Nelson through this week just to see, because your superstars are your superstars, and they're that way for a reason. And that goes for Jordy Nelson and the Green Bay Packers. I think he'll be targeted a lot. So it'll be great to see. With Aaron Rodgers going down, obviously you can't look to have him be this huge, trade guy that you go and beef up your other positions while you stream quarterbacks for the rest of the season. So what, to people owning a guy like Aaron Rodgers, what is your strategy moving forward?
So I think it comes down to streaming a quarterback at that point. If you can get lucky, maybe the Andrew Luck owner will trade you something decent for him. Surprisingly, Eli Manning has been pretty good. God, I want to throw up just saying that.
Me too.
But I think you have some decent options with Goff, Manning, McCown. Tyrod Taylor is still somebody that I'm kind of interested in. And if you want to take a flyer, oh man, this year is so messed up. But if you want to take a flyer, maybe Bridgewater is even somebody that you look at rolling with. If your season is at that point, hey, you know what? Risk reward. If he's just sitting on your bench, might as well try it out.
Alrighty, well, Brandon, I thank you as always for your infinite wisdom as the Team Fan Show fantasy guru. I always look forward to your waiver wire articles as well as anything else fantasy related. I find myself less editing and more informing myself before everybody else gets the chance to. So I'm glad that your move went well. Enjoy the sunny weather of Florida, and we will talk again very soon. All things fantasy football.
Awesome. Thanks.
Hey, you have a good night.
All right, you too. See ya.
And that, of course, once again, Brandon Raper, member of Team Fan Show. You can find him on thefanshow.com/fantasy. He's under the fantasy tab. It's his own tab pretty much, because he is the only and best fantasy writer that I have. So he does great, and I think that's all that you could ask for. If I had one fantasy writer and they were like, meh, I'd be like, well, there's other places that you can go for fantasy advice. But he does a great job. He volunteered after the closing date when I was taking applicants that wanted to write for Team Fan Show. But I said, I've always got room for one more, and it is fantastic to have a man as educated and well-versed in the world of fantasy as him. We've got a Butt Fumble Award coming up, but don't forget, one more time, folks, you got to go and check out mybookie.ag today. They are the industry leader for your online betting and gambling needs. So please go visit mybookie.ag today. Use promo code TheFanShow when you sign up and register, and they will match your deposit up to 100%. It's the last time that they're doing this bonus matching, so you need to take advantage of it now, because at the end of the month, it is bye-bye. And remember, your team doesn't even have to win. They just need to cover the spread, so why wait? Go and do it now. And if your team sucks, then you can do yourself a favor and bet against them. It's a win-win-win for you, this is your call to action. And don't forget, they have in-game live betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. You can also check out their online casino if you'd rather play a few hands of blackjack or just roll the dice and crap. So if you got a gambling and a betting itch, you can scratch it. I mean, please gamble responsibly, or whatever they say. I'm not encouraging you to go and mount this huge gambling debt and take things up with a loan shark. I'm just saying, if you want to have a little fun, go to MyBookie. I trust them. You should trust them. They are the industry leader. The 3 R's: reputation, reliability, real fast payouts. MyBookie.ag today. And with that, we have a Butt Fumble Award to give out before I welcome Eric Fischer onto the show. And of course, with every week, you nominate, you vote. And I've said this so many times, but it doesn't have to be a player or a coach or anyone actually on the football field that wins it. And we had a nominee this week, and I'm so happy that we did, because I knew that people were going to mention it and talk about it when I asked for nominees. But there have only been a few like fan or cheerleader or organization related awards, and this one could very well fall into that category. So you nominated, you voted. First nominee is the Flacco forward pass fail. He went beyond the line of scrimmage, threw a forward lateral. That's what it technically was at that point. It was a touchdown, but man, that kind of veteran in this league, you got to be aware of where you are on the field. So it was probably heat of the moment, but it was still funny because everybody celebrated, oh my God, touchdown. Yeah, no, you were beyond the line and a couple of yards beyond the line. So it is a forward lateral, and it is not a touchdown. The next one was the Denver Broncos getting embarrassed not only at home, not only in primetime, but by a winless team, the New York Giants. Eli Manning without any of his favorite toys out there on offense, and you just got embarrassed. So the Denver Broncos, I thought maybe might be the close one here, but the third and final nominee, Al Michaels. And man, I'm not one to apologize for a butt fumble of the mouth, as it were, but at the same time, I understand he's Al Michaels, and it was just poor joke, timing, whatever on his part, and he made the comment that the Giants are coming off a worse week than Harvey Weinstein, and people did not like that. So, your winner of the Week 6 Butt Fumble Award goes to Al Michaels. That's right, my friend. You may be a legend in the broadcast booth, but you are not immune to a butt fumble of the mouth, which is exactly what happened. Your poor timing and joke choice is what landed you as the favorite and winner for this week's Butt Fumble Award. Congratulations, Al Michaels. You, sir, have earned it. And that will take us to the last commercial break. When I come back, Eric Fischer. We'll be back after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw that Sky hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns. 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten. You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? You know, just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how does a puddle right outside your house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks.
Good. Here, listen to the sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ciccarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellect, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial, or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, he is back to mourn the loss of Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay Packer faithful Eric Fischer. How you doing, Eric?
Well, I tell you what, I'd be better if Aaron Rodgers was playing this week, but I'm feeling pretty good. It's been a rough couple days, but we're powering through.
What was the initial reaction when he went down? Because once they said what it could be and what it looked like, and I watched the replay, I instantly saw Tony Romo in that replay in my mind because he got tackled like the exact same way. How did you feel, and everyone else that I don't know like how you watched the games, but I guess just the initial reaction when he went down and didn't get back up?
My initial reaction actually went back to 2013 when he broke his left collarbone, and it was just like kind of like that oh no sickening like moment where it's like, he probably broke his collarbone, you know. That's just what it looked like. And you're right, Tony Romo came to mind too, because it was so similar. When he got really heated at Barr, because, I mean, Aaron Rodgers does take hits. That's just the way it is. It has been anyway. With a pieced together offensive line basically all season. This was the first time he actually had his starting unit in front of him. And that didn't even last that long. But it was just kind of like, okay, you know, he's going to get hit. He usually gets up. When he doesn't get up, it's usually that like a really sickening feeling because you know just how much abuse he has taken and how much he does take. For him to not get up, it really gets people worried. And then that oh no moment was when they showed him being on the cart. And Brett Hundley comes over to give him a high five, you know, hey, I got this. And he can't even high five him with that right arm. And it's just like, this again?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, obviously a key component to your guys' whole game, just because it seems like it doesn't matter how much you're down and how late in the game it is, as long as you have number 12 out there, it gives you a chance to win the game, which, you know, for a while there, only the Patriots were really able to say that, but now Green Bay, you guys will have Hundley to start, and I don't know, I haven't heard the same talk that I heard when you guys had backups like Matt Flynn and the others that seem to like set records in Aaron Rodgers' absence, and now we have Hundley, and I guess I feel like I've missed something where people just are not all aboard the Hundley train. Like, I get what's your thought on the backup taking the spot of Rodgers?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Here in Green Bay, and specifically in the media market in Green Bay, there's actually there's actually some hopeful feeling. Most fans, NFL fans, remember when Aaron Rodgers got hurt in 2013 when it was the cluster of backup quarterbacks between Seneca Wallace started a game at one point, and Matt Flynn and Scott Tolzien were all in that mix, and it didn't go that well. it wasn't good enough to get to the playoffs when Aaron Rodgers came back in Week 17 against the Bears. But it wasn't. It was just kind of like okay, this is going to be ugly, whatever. Brett Hundley is different. I feel Packer fans are starting to kind of rally around the fact that he's going to have a week of actual preparation with the coaching staff and with the receivers, so that some of the timing is going to come down. The other aspect is that people, Brett Hundley has been really, I guess, lucky enough, if that's the right word, to get a lot of reps with the number one offense in the preseason, because Aaron Rodgers just doesn't play preseason. That's just the way it is here in Green Bay. And specifically after Jordy Nelson went down with the torn ACL in the preseason 2 years ago. So, the whole Aaron Rodgers, make sure he doesn't get hurt thing in the preseason has been really on full bore ever since Brett Hundley came to town. So when Brett Hundley's, he marched out there on Sunday, it was okay, maybe we lose this game, but next week should be better. And that's kind of the way, Monday started off pretty, gloom, sad, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Yesterday was kind of a nice transition day. Okay, yeah, it's Brett Hundley. It's not Aaron Rodgers. He has shown flashes. Today, a lot of people are kind of starting to feel that hope as the game gets closer, that maybe Brett Hundley is everything that Packer fans have been cracking him up to be. Because there was talk of him being worth the first or second round pick around the draft the last 2 years, really. So I guess, like I said, it's a lot of hopeful. It's not as gloom and dark as it has been in the past, but I think that's because of how the sour taste was after 2013.
Well, and obviously expectations are going to be, one, unrealistic, and two, I guess high or low depending on how you look at it. High because he's taking over for the quarterback known as Aaron Rodgers, which is arguably the best in the league right now, possibly the best ever. But two, they're low because that even if you had a backup like Tom Brady, you'd wonder how well he was going to work with the offense that you have there in Green Bay. So the expectations should be low. I feel like that's a good thing, but it does come at a very inconvenient time. You guys are 4-2 now. And I don't know, this surgery that he elected to have, they say it's season ending, but they usually mean the regular season by that. Is this something that you feel he could come back either the last week of the regular season if needed, or just strictly for a playoff run if this Green Bay Packer team led by Hundley is able to make it that far?
Well, it'll depend on how the season goes. If they're out of it, I think he stays on the IR. He technically hasn't even been placed on IR yet, which is a really interesting note. I think the team officials said today in a statement that they were going to wait for how the surgery went to kind of get a grip of if they want to keep him on the active roster, but it really looks like he's going to be on IR. Some of the talk around town is that he could be back as early as week 15 if he goes through that 8 weeks. It's unlikely, A, for the fact that it is his right collarbone, not the left one like last time. And B, like I said, it depends on how the team's doing. If Brett Hundley is able to go out and, the team's 4-2 now, if he can win 4 or 5 games on his own, get the team to, 8 and something at that point in week 15, or even get to a spot of contention, maybe he presses it and comes back early. I'd wear some sort of supporting brace or padding, extra padding, whatever. And then he plays the playoffs. I think regardless if Green Bay gets there, I think it's Aaron Rodgers if he is healthy. But it'll depend on how the journey goes.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think that this time last year, the Packers weren't even the favorite to make the playoffs, let alone win the division, and then you had the complete and utter collapse of the Minnesota Vikings. They went 5-0 and then fell apart at probably every seam that you can fall apart on a football team. And then the Lions lost their last 3 in a row and had to make the playoffs as a wild card team. Now, of course, lightning can strike twice, but you don't want to have to leave it on the other teams to not win in order to make the playoffs. So you guys are in a good position now. The schedule, it's going to be as hard as the team makes it because clearly McCarthy now knows the future, the immediate future of the team and how he has to sort of cater the game planning around his new quarterback. But, I feel like an apology is owed to you guys. When I was doing Fan versus Fan Show picks with Mark Sessler, I took the Vikings at home, and I said, I don't know why. I feel like something's going to happen in this game, and the Vikings are going to come out with a win. But I did not mean at all that I thought that somebody was going to suffer a key injury. I figured this was going to be one of those games where Rodgers spent a majority of the game on his back, and that offense just had a really, really off day against the Minnesota defense. So I did not wish injury upon anyone, especially Aaron Rodgers. He's a quarterback in one of my fantasy teams, but I apologize to the good people of Green Bay, Wisconsin, because I feel like if they heard that segment that I should probably be receiving death threats by now.
We accept. Honestly, going into that game, it seemed like where Green Bay would be set up to win throughout the whole game, but it's just because it's always happens in Minnesota. Something was going to happen, whether that be another Fail Mary, something to that effect, whatever it be. Something was going to happen. I had a really weird feeling about it on Friday when I was doing my my preview of the game through the radio station I interned for here. But it was just kind of like that weird, like, okay, they should win. I just don't feel confident about it,
Yeah.
And even watching that game, Minnesota left so many open doors for even Brett Hundley once he came in to bring them back to that game. And then, they really stepped up the defense when he came in, partially due to missed assignments, partially due to another patchwork offensive line, and partially due just to a lack of game planning for Brett Hundley in the offense. So there was just a menagerie of different things that really led to the Vikings win. I know you said also that the Vikings were going to be a power shift. This, like I said on Twitter, might have an asterisk next to it, but we will see.
I said that the NFC North was due for a power shift just because Aaron Rodgers has owned that division for so long. You can't expect three other teams to be terrible forever. And obviously last year we saw the resurgence of the Lions, and then now they started off well. They haven't played very well recently. The Vikings clearly have the best backup in NFL with Case Keenum, and who would have thought that would be a thing that you'd be proud of. And then now the Bears start the Mitchell Trubisky era. So I felt like Aaron Rodgers wasn't necessarily on borrowed time, but it's just that, you entered a division at the perfect time where it came down to the second that you were able to take down Brett Favre, you went to the Super Bowl and you won it. You had to get over that hump against Brett the Viking, and then since then it's been pretty much, if it wasn't for Adrian Peterson and the Vikings, there really wasn't anybody that you had to contend with. And so I worried about all the issues that Green Bay had with the offensive line, with key injuries to wide receivers, the lack of a defense, and sometimes people call into question Mike McCarthy's play calling. So I worried about the Aaron Rodgers era in Green Bay, and if they didn't address the major issues that they were going to need to for the future, just how long we would continue to see Green Bay at the top of the North Tower. That's pretty much what I was getting at with that whole statement with Zach earlier.
Mm-hmm. And, looking back, and like I said, even in this game, there was opportunity. The defense played remarkably well. It's really kind of hard to say that for giving up 23 points. 9 of that was off field goals. And the other, there was also, it wasn't like a pick six or anything like that, but the defense for Minnesota set up their own points. It wasn't like they came out and really, rushed the ball down the Packers' throat. Kind of like what we saw against Atlanta, the other Packers lost this season. So really, things here in Green Bay, they were going so right. Like I said, the defense as of before the game Sunday was ranked 11th in the NFL in yards allowed, points allowed, et cetera, et cetera. They were the 11th ranked defense, which I don't think anybody really could have expected this year, considering they were second to last year. And really, they had Ahmad Brooks, who didn't play on Sunday, Quentin Dial, and then a couple of rookies being Josh Jones and Kevin King. Kevin King also didn't play on Sunday. So the Packers, even the secondary was patchwork this last week. And they got burned by a couple plays, but, I mean, really, the expectation is getting higher on that Packer defense, and they're growing together. Kevin King is probably one of the best rookie cornerbacks this year. I think I saw Pro Football Focus rated him as the second best quarterback or corner among the rookies, or top 10, somewhere in there. Maybe I read the chart wrong, but he was definitely in the top group. So that defense is really coming around. They're growing together, which was kind of the hypothesis here in Green Bay, was that they would start off maybe a little slow, as you saw against Atlanta, and then towards the end of the year, they would build up with how the offense usually has in the past. Obviously, with Aaron Rodgers being hurt, that's going to put some higher expectations on the defense to keep the offense in games. Even looking at the Vikings game, the defense finally didn't lose a game. The offense just couldn't win it. Is how I looked at it, and how a lot of people are looking at it. So realistically, I mean, expectations are higher on that defense. They're going to be higher going forward. But I think the Packers have a bright future still under the Aaron Rodgers era yet.
And hopefully they do. I know that Zach is pretty much, he doesn't want to cheer for the Packers until Mike McCarthy's out of there, which, I mean, it's crazy to think about because the guy has such a great record, but, people are going to ask the question forever, would Brady be Brady without Belichick, and would Belichick be Belichick without Brady? I tend to think that Belichick would be Belichick even without Brady because we have seen that. But McCarthy, I don't think, would be McCarthy without Rodgers because, well, we've seen that too. So you get these opportunities to see, okay, where does the power really lie? And yeah, McCarthy gets a bad rap sometimes, but he got you guys a Super Bowl, and he's got you into the playoffs, like 9 out of the last 10 seasons or something like that. But it's a crazy good record that a majority of the NFL that isn't named the New England Patriots or Seattle Seahawks would happily take that record over their current situation now, and even for the past 10 years or so. But obviously, you guys that are the Green Bay, the Go Pack Go faithful, you all have your own opinions. You guys watch them week to week. You watch them very carefully. So I'm sure we'll check in with you later on in the season. But congratulations are in order for you, the internship that you got. I saw that announcement, so props to you, sir.
And that's kind of a funny thing in and of itself. I've been there for like a year and change. When I graduate in December, I'll have been there for a year and a half. But I never filled out the paperwork to get the official announcements. Just for and it actually worked out better because this semester, my final semester, I wanted to graduate early in 3.5 years instead of 4, and I was able to substitute that class with a TV production class since I've been doing that in the past on a different, school experiences and stuff like that too. So really, it came at the perfect time to fill out the form for it. So that was kind of like, I was like, I'm getting all these congratulations on, Facebook and stuff like that. But it's like, most of the people are like, haven't you been doing that for a while? I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for a year.
That's what I thought too, but I read a few details and I was like, oh, well, maybe this is just like something added onto his official title. So I figured I'd take a moment to say it anyway.
Well, I really do appreciate it. And then one quick comment I want to hit on with the whole Mike McCarthy thing. I personally think he and for that matter Dom Capers, because Dom Capers' head has been called for around here basically since 2011 when the Packers went 15-1 and still lost in the first round or the second round technically of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So Dom Capers has had his head on a metaphorical stake, just wanted posters around Green Bay, wanted, fired or alive, whatever, Dom Capers, get rid of him. And as soon as the Packers give up a touchdown in the regular season, get rid of Dom Capers, rid of Dom Capers. I know my dad personally is the biggest anti-McCarthy guy. I think he takes it one step farther than Zach does.
That's hard to do.
My dad's always, Mike McCarthy is the worst head coach to ever win a Super Bowl. And I'm like, have you ever met Brian Billick? Me personally, that's where I lean. I think Mike McCarthy will do just fine. He is a quarterback guru. I think he just had it wasn't Scott Tolzien's fault that it was Scott Tolzien's fault the Packers didn't work with him. and the Seneca Wallace experiment that ended up lasting a drive in 2013 really stalled out that season for the most part, other than going back to the playoffs, winning the North. But goodness gracious, I think he gets we have such a high expectation in football around here, where there's, like you said, teams want to go. They'd be killing to go. Oh, we only went 10-6 this year, and we made the playoffs. Darn. We only made the NFC Championship game this year. Darn. And there's other teams like the Jets sitting out there where they're like, dude, we're lucky if we win a game this year. Or the Browns, we're lucky if we win. If we even get close to sniffing 6-10, 4-12, something like that. That's a good year for us right now. And it's like, if Green Bay had a year like that, I think all hell would break loose.
Yeah, it is crazy to think about perspective from each fan base. But, it's like the argument that I've made, people that get on Patriots fans that leave early from games that are, the Patriots are about to lose and they don't want to stick around to see if they're going to pull out a victory somehow. And I said, I understand. It is poor on the fans' part. But at the same time, and I don't normally like to play devil's advocate or even come to the defense of poor sportsmanship fans like that, because I would never leave a game early regardless. But there's not a lot of people that have been through what New England has, where you've come to have a certain standard and expectation for how well your team plays. And if you don't, then you're gonna pack it up and try to beat traffic. And from the outside looking in, from the other 31 teams, that it's going to be however you perceive it. But just keep in mind, that when you're a Browns fan, if you win one game after starting out 0-8, it's like you won the damn Super Bowl that year. But if you're a Patriots fan, and if you lose to Miami late in the fourth by 2 touchdowns, you pack it up and go home, because there's 2 completely different levels of standard and expectation for those 2 teams. So it's something that, like I said, I would never do as a fan. And obviously I don't have season tickets, and it's hard enough for me to even get to a game for the 49ers, being an out-of-state fan. So if I'm going to go, I'm going to go, and I'm going to get there early. I'm going to stay late. I'm going to enjoy my experience. But if you're a season ticket holder, and if something doesn't go your way, you do what you're going to do, because this is part of like your weekly routine. So it is what it is. But
right.
Eric, I do thank you so much for coming on the show again. And he is Eric Fischer of Fish and Panda, FlurrySports.org, and the Fan up there in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So you have a great rest of your week, and take care, sir.
Thank you. Vince Lombardi had a saying that he was never going to coach a loser. Came in 1958, I believe. Came in, never coached a losing season wherever he went as a head coach. Green Bay Packers season tickets have been sold out since 1960. I think there's a coincidence there.
Oh, yeah.
So you're right. It is hard enough to go to a game. I don't have season tickets either. But I appreciate being on once again, Zach. Or not Zach. I appreciate being on the Fan Show. Goodness gracious. It's been one of them days. It's been one of them weeks. Packer fans, we get all our head messed up. But, yeah, I do appreciate being on the show once again. Hope to check back in with you once Brett Hundley is taking us to the playoffs.
All right. Sounds good, my friend. You take care.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And once again, that was Eric Fischer. And that's going to do it for this Wednesday edition of the Fan Show. Don't forget, I am live and on location tomorrow night for a pregame party for the good people of Oakland, the Spokane chapter of the Oakland Raiders fan club. So, stay tuned for some more details about that, but thank you to Brandon and Eric for having a great time on this Wednesday edition of the Fan Show. So we bring it home. We close out our week tomorrow night, live and on location. Watch for that, and don't forget, hopefully you're following me on Periscope and that you've liked the page on Facebook in case we do a Facebook Live simulcast as well. Follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, check out the Instagram and Snapchat. Both are the Fan Show. The other two are /FanShowOfficial. And then, of course, your home base for all things football and nonsense is thefanshow.com. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.